Hello everyone, it's Leah, and today we've got a cosplay refresh for you. The character that we are tackling in today's video is Kairi, specifically Kairi from Kingdom Hearts 2, a video game that was a collaboration between Disney and Square Enix. Square Enix is known for their Final Fantasy series, which may be a hint at another character we might be doing soon. But Kingdom Hearts is a game that I played when it first came out. Kairi is one of my favorite characters, and I think that this costume is so unique, definitely a challenge, and one I started a really long time ago and never got around to finishing until now, so let's get into it. So the first thing that we need to do is deconstruct this dress. We're taking off the straps, we're taking out all of the zippers, starting from scratch because this dress was extremely ill-fitting. The bottom of it wasn't even. There were just so many issues, and I think it's going to be better for me to just fully start over. And for context about the first time I tried to make this cosplay, the exact dress doesn't exist anymore in this color, but this dress here was what the dress started out looking like before I cut it up and added all these zippers. I will link in the description the zippers that I bought and any other materials that I use that are still available. I think these zippers work really perfect for this dress, and I am very, very excited to put this together again and reconstruct this cosplay in a way that fits me well and that I can wear to conventions. After we had all the zippers free, we had to go through, get rid of all of the black thread. There was a ton of it. It took a while. Then I ironed the creases out of the fabric. Right now we are working with the two panels right in the front of the shirt and the center zipper. We are pinning down the sides where we are going to sew the zippers on, and then I'm ironing those new creases down. So I separated the zipper and I'm pinning each side onto each of these panels. When I did end up sewing it on, I left a little bit more black between the pink fabric and the end of the zipper. Let's repeat with the other side. And in this dress construction, I learned some new things about my sewing machine that I'm very excited to teach you. But first, let's look at the zipper that's going to be running down the front of the dress. It looks way, way neater. And then here, the bottom of the dress is even. Unlike the first time, we've got a nice even hem at the bottom of this dress. And now for what I learned about my sewing machine. I've always had trouble using stretchy fabric like this dress has, and I just always thought it was user error. I didn't really know what I was doing, but you can see in a few places as the fabric is going through the machine, the fabric is bunching up on the other side, and I'm constantly having to readjust the fabric so that it sits nicely on the zipper where I want it to be. But the reason that this fabric is bunching up and not sitting properly is because I needed to adjust the tension of the thread. There's this knob on my sewing machine. I always thought it had to do with the type of thread you were using, but I learned during this process that it's actually the fabric that you're using. And if you're using stretchy fabric, you want the thread tension to be between 0 and 1. And once I figured this out, I actually had it very, very close to 0. So unfortunately, because I didn't realize this right away, there is going to be the teeniest little bit of wonkiness in this general dress construction. But once I started working on the hem of the top of the dress and adding in all the little details, I had learned this new information about thread tension. I'm embarrassed with myself. I didn't know it before, but I know it now. And yeah, it made working with this fabric so much easier. But regardless, even though I didn't know about the thread tension before I did the reconstruction of this dress, I still think it looks really great. It fits fairly well. There's still some little modifications that we need to make, but we are in a good place with the zippers, with the shape of the dress. And now let's move on to finishing the hem at the top of the dress and adding in all the extra details. Everything is going well so far with the dress. I love how the zippers came out in the front. It's already fitting a lot better, but there's still a lot to do before we can attach this white piece in the front, add on the straps, add on the hood. So with the white shirt, it's just gonna be this section in the middle. These straps aren't gonna be here. But as you can see, we still need to hem the top of the dress all the way around in the back as well. But we have it all pinned so we know where that's going to go. Trimming it all on the inside, making the seams nice and secure. And then in the front here, I couldn't go all the way up with my sewing machine just because there are some pieces on the zipper I need to avoid. It's like hard pieces. And I know that my sewing machine would have a hard time going through that. I'd rather just hand sew it. It's just a few little pieces like at the tops of the zippers. And speaking of zippers, obviously we've got these 3 zippers in the front, but there is another built-in zipper on the side of the dress. And that's right on this side. As you can see the zipper starts here. See there? And this is the zipper that I want to be the functional zipper for the dress. But since we folded it and we're kind of hemming off the top of that zipper, we need to cut the zipper, make it a little bit shorter. And that's a fun little hack. I'm excited to show you how to shorten zippers. So we're gonna start with that. We're gonna hem the back of the dress, and then we're gonna finish up the top of it with the white shirt, the black straps, and the hood. Obviously, it's all still kind of falling apart right now, but I see the vision and we're in a very good place. Let's get into that zipper shortening tutorial. So for my zipper shortening project, I am using the same pink thread I've been using. We've got some regular scissors, some pinking shears, a plier, some little sewing accessories, including a seam ripper, a thimble, a threader, and a couple different sizes of needles. That bigger needle I'm going to use to pass through the harder pieces that are at the ends of the zippers. Though I didn't show myself hand sewing at all. Sorry, I kind of missed that step. But onto the practical zipper. As you can see here, I have 2 different lines of pins. That top line of pin is supposed to indicate where the top of the hem of the dress is going to be. And those second 2 pins just below them indicate where the top of the zipper is going to be and where we need to make the cut. So that top of the zipper is going to move down to where that second line of pins is. First thing that we need to do, there is a hook and eye at the top of this dress. We need to pull that off and save those for later because we are absolutely going to be putting that hook and eye back on. And before we cut the zipper, I want to make a note of this little plastic piece you see at the top of the zipper. That is the zipper guard, which holds the zipper in place and stops it from being pulled out. I tried very hard to get this guard off. It took me a lot of time, and I decided in the end, it wasn't worth it. My intention was to take the guard off and then replace it in the new spot where I was cutting the zipper. But there's a different hack where you can use thread, and that is the method I decided to use, and I will show you that a bit later. First, we need to seam rip this zipper down to the place where we want it to start, where that second line of pins was. We're gonna tie off the end of the thread here, and once the zippers are in place, we are going to cut them. And like I said again, tried very hard to get this guard back in place. It wasn't working. Some zippers have metal guards. I think that would have been easier, but no matter how much I tried, this guard was not staying in place, so I used some thread. You can see here, I'm pulling the thread through and I am just looping it around the zipper. You can see here, that's just after 1 loop. You can barely see the thread, so yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to loop it around as many times as we can and just really build up a guard thread. While you're pulling the thread through, you want to make sure that the thread is bunching up on top of each other. And that is what the first guard looks like before I took the thread off and cut it. Because first I wanted to check it, make sure the zipper couldn't go through. So I repeated this on the other side. And that is what our zipper guard looks like. And that's how you shorten a zipper. There, of course, is one more step, adding back on the hook and eye, but first we need to hem the top of this dress. The first step in hemming the top of the dress is to put a seam right at the top of that dress where the fabric folds over. And at this point, I had learned that amazing new tip of changing the thread tension. So we've got the thread tension set to 0. Didn't have that bunching problem anymore with the fabric. The fabric went through the sewing machine super easily, and we were able to get a nice hem at the top of the dress. And so this is what that hem looks like, but of course we still have all this extra fabric on the other side. So what you're gonna do, you're going to cut that fabric, giving like a 1/2 inch of seam allowance, and then you are going to fold those seams over so you can't see the open edge. Like you can see here, all those open edges are now folded underneath, and we are going to add a second seam to hold those edges in place. And that's what those two seams are going to look like at the top of the dress, nice and neat. We're going to repeat that all around the dress. And now it's time to add the hook and eye. Since the place on the inside of the dress that we're adding the hook and eye has a couple layers of fabric rolled over, when you are pulling the needle through the hook and eye and through the fabric, you want to make sure that you're only having the needle and the thread go through that top layer of fabric so that you don't see any of these thread seams on the outside of the dress. And you just want to loop it through the metal as many times as possible until it feels secure on both sides. And here is a little knot tutorial. To close off this hand sewing knot, you are going to pull the needle and thread through, but instead of pulling it all the way through, you're going to grab one end, make a loop. You are going to thread that loop around the needle 3 to 4 times, which is going to create the knot. And then you are going to pull the knot through until it is flush with the fabric and creates a nice knot. And you can actually repeat this step 2 to 3 times to make sure it's super, super secure. And there's the hook and eye, super messy looking on the bottom, but can't really see it on the top. And yeah, on the outside of the fabric, it looks nice and neat. Though this was the moment I realized that the thread I picked wasn't exactly the right color, but we're doing our best. Definitely looks better than the black. So now that we have fixed the shape of the dress, the overall construction, we've hemmed that top there, shortened the zipper, it's now time to work on some of the other details of the dress, including this white shirt front, the straps and the hood, and the grommets we're seeing on the front of the dress. Let me show you how I did it. I basically just cut out the front of that white shirt. We're gonna trim it a little bit later. I laid it in place in the front of the dress with the zipper open, and I attached it using the pink thread, just following the seam that we had already made when we put the zippers in place. So we're not adding any new seam lines, we're just following a seam line that we'd already made. I did a little bit of hand sewing towards the bottom. I didn't want to mess with my sewing machine with this. It was just easier to hand sew it on both sides, all the way down just below where the zipper was sitting. Again, here's a little knot tutorial. Same way, you make that loop, you spin it around the needle, you pull it tight, and you got a knot. And once we had both of those sides sewn, we had to, again, add a little zipper stopper. This time, we were trying to stop the zipper from moving down any farther. We want to really lock that zipper in place, so we're taking some black thread, looping it around until we have a guard built up and the zipper won't be able to move down at all. It'll stay right in place there. And once we felt good about that, we cut all the excess fabric from the white. Looking a little messy on the inside as always, but oh, that outside looks clean. This is coming together nicely. Now let's work on the straps. First, we are going to do these black straps with these metal hooks. So here you can see all the places that we need to sew. Where the pins are on the black elastic, we're just gonna do a line of black thread. And where the black elastic strap connects to the dress, we are going to do this like square crisscross pattern. I'll show you what it looks like in the end. I think it looks pretty neat and professional, but that is how we are attaching all of the straps to the dress. But we have one more strap we need to add to those metal loops. But before that, we need to make the hood because the hood is going to attach to this last strap. I made the hood 14 inches high, and the pattern I was using said that the hood should be 10 inches deep, but this piece of fabric I had wasn't that deep, so we just used what we had. This isn't really a hood that you're wearing for the cosplay, so it didn't matter to me so much that it fit, just that it looked like a hood. I chalked this curved line for the top of the hood, pinned it, and then cut off all the excess. Also, when I originally pinned this, I accidentally pinned it right side out. You want to pin this inside out so that the seam is on the inside, and when you turn it right side out, you don't see the seam. So that's what the original seam looks like. And then we added another stitch to the end of the fabric just to make sure that there wasn't any fraying. This is a stitch that looks like this. Most sewing machines with multiple stitch options will have it, and that's what that finished seam looks like. And now along the bottom, again, we just want to close the seam off. This is another method that we're using. We've used many times before where you just turn the open seam in on itself and sew that down in place. And that's what that looks like. Now to attach it to the white elastic, which is going to be the last strap we're gonna add to the top. So let's get that sewed into place. That is what the top of the strap is gonna look like, and that part here is going to be against my neck underneath. So we're adding it to those silver loops the same way we added the black straps, but instead we're going to add a line of white thread instead of black thread. And this white strap is sort of gonna be a halter strap around the back of my neck, and it's gonna help keep the hood in place. And now we've gotta add these grommets to the front of the dress. I've done a lot of grommet tutorials before. You basically hammer a hole into the fabric and then you hammer the grommet into place. This dress has 8 grommets in total, 4 on each side. And this is just a fun, extra little detail to add to the dress to make it look finished and professional. Now that the dress is done, we have a fun accessory we need to make. We need to make Kairi's custom bag. So we started with this bag. This has a waist strap and it also has a leg strap. We're not gonna use either one of those, so let's get rid of the waist strap and let's seam rip off this leg strap. Those are going into the cosplay bin. I'm sure I'll use them for something else. But for this cosplay, we're going to make our own waist strap. But before we get to that, the bag that Kairi uses has a little purple pin on the front. Hers is just a little bow. I could have bought purple ribbon, but I have so many little accessories here and there, and I thought instead it would be way more fun to use something that I have. So I took all these little purple beads. I threaded half of them through this string. Once I got to the halfway mark, I took out this little pin, which is what we're going to use to attach it to the bag. I threaded the string through the pin, and once the string was through, I added the rest of the beads. So now we've got these long strands of purple beads, which kind of mimic what a long tied ribbon would look like, though I didn't feel like it was finished yet. So I found this purple butterfly clip. I pulled the butterfly off of the clip part because we didn't need that. We already have the pin. And once that was removed, I added some hot glue to the face of the pin and I hot glued the butterfly into place. And I think this is a cute little custom piece, very unique to my own Kairi cosplay. And yeah, I'm fully obsessed. Now we need to make the waist belt to attach it to. For this, we're going to need black strap, some small silver rings, and then some of these bigger book clip silver rings. These are not cosplay accessories. I think they're meant for like flashcards if you're like studying. I've had them for a really long time and have used them for many cosplays. I think it works for this because this belt strap is going to need a place that opens up, and I think that these book rings are going to be perfect for that. So we have the initial strap around the waist, and then this extra strap hanging down, which is where we're going to attach the bag to. Giving you a little spin to show you what it looks like. And now that I feel happy with the design of this belt, it's time to add the grommets. So we're going to add the hole for the grommet right in between where these two clips are. Same method of adding the grommets that we did for the dress. And this first strap that we're working on here is that top waist belt, the one that's connected with the book clips. Right now you're seeing little indentations in the strap where the clips were holding it together. I've worked with this strap a lot, so those will disappear over time. The strap is extremely resilient. And then we need to repeat all those steps and add the grommets to the other strap, the one that is going to hold the bag. And you can see here it's not one continuous strap. I do have an extra metal loop around where the bag was going to sit. I added that just as a failsafe in case I didn't feel like the bag was sitting exactly where I wanted to. It gave me an extra section to add another way to secure the bag onto the belt, but I actually found that the belt sat nicely, so it wasn't terribly necessary. But anytime I have an opportunity to add extra rivets and extra metal pieces, I'm always down to do that. And now the cosplay is finished. Time for the final reveal. Thank you so much for coming along with me for this cosplay refresh. I'm feeling that giddiness that I get every time I successfully finish a project. It's so fulfilling seeing these costumes come to life, and this is one I'm very proud to add to the collection. It's also so great making a cosplay that has a bag. It makes it that much easier to wear it to a convention. This is now the second time I've shown you how to make a custom bag. It might become a staple in my cosplay videos because I think it is such an important essential that a lot of costumes lack. So I'm happy I was able to provide that for this cosplay. So if you are enjoying the content on this channel, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, comment down below some characters you want to see me make, and of course, join us on Patreon for even more content. I'd like to thank my platinum tier patrons, Yutaka Tamanaha, Dale, Brett Muraski, and Lars Baker. I appreciate your support. My name is Leah, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.
Let it go. 얼어붙어 like whoa. 띵하고 어지러워. I see. 한여름에도 넌 겨울. Yeah, 가요거 blood. Yeah, 너와 있을 때 I swear. 제가 먼저 zero 폭설한 기출들. 꿈에도 I wasn't aware. 나만 빼고 넌 모두에게 참 친절해. 내 신감이 들어 단판이 태도 머릿속을.